Hello everyone! In honor of it being our last little section of Chapter 7, I thought I'd talk in the whole time in a British accent. How do you feel about that? No? Alright, I won't. Alright, but anyway guys, it's our last factoring section and I'm sure you're really excited. We spent a lot of time on factoring. So we're going to end this unit talking about a special property. And you guys are going to actually be solving equations, which is a really important skill to know before you move out of here from algebra. So somewhat of a review and somewhat new because it's factoring. So let's go ahead and jump right in and talk a little bit about this zero product property first. So whenever you see the word product, you should automatically think multiplication. So you know that whenever you multiply something by zero, the answer is zero. So when we're talking about factoring and we talk about the zero product property, if the product of two numbers is zero, then one of the factors has to be zero. So one factor must be zero. Now the reason we're talking about this is because when you're dealing with quadratic equations today, you're going to see that all of the equations are set equal to zero. And when you see that, there's a special process that you use to solve this type of equation. We've seen these type of equations before, so this is a little bit of a review. So in case you don't remember, if ever you were to see an equation like this, where x plus 1 times x plus 4 equals 0, the best way to solve this equation is to set each of the parts equal to 0. And you're going to have two separate answers. So to give you an example, maybe it will all come back to you when I write this out. You can write x plus 1 is equal to 0 and x plus 4 is equal to 0. That's really the easiest way to solve this equation, to figure out what x is equal to. So this is just a one-step equation then. So to solve it, remember you do the opposite. So x is equal to negative 1. And then over here, to solve for x, we're going to do the opposite. But this time, x is equal to negative 4. So in these types of equations, you're going to have two different answers. Okay? So let's look at this one. Actually, I'm going to have you guys try this one. See how your equation solving skills are when you try this. So pause the video, try it, and then check your answer. All right, so there's your answer for this equation. You have two separate answers, and they should be written as a fraction. If you had a decimal, it would be negative 1.5, and then kind of a repeating decimal here. Or actually 0.60 probably. Okay? Or wait, 0.80? Yeah. So hopefully you feel good about this because we're going to switch it up a little bit. So if you look down here, you have two equations that are set equal to 0, but I want you to think about what the difference is between these types of equations excuse me, and these types of equations, because these are not factored yet. These up here, if you notice, they're factored into two binomials. These are not. So good thing you know how to factor now because that's what you're going to be doing. Before you can solve these equations, set two equal parts equal to 0, you have to factor them. So we're not going to do these two examples, but these are the steps that you're going to follow to do this. So you're going to factor the quadratic equations. That's what these are. Okay, quadratic equations, trinomials. And you're going to set each of the factors equal to 0 once you have factored them into two binomials. So let's draw two parentheses. That's your goal, is to get them into two binomials. And then you're going to solve the equation like normal. And you are going to have two different answers for each of these quadratic equations. So let's go ahead and try some on the next page here. So here's our first quadratic equation. It's not factored yet. So you're going to draw two parentheses. We're going to factor it into two binomials. So let's think back. Remember, you want it to multiply to be 8 and add to be 6. So let's list our factors of 8. 1 and 8, oops, 2 and 4, and that's it. So they're both positive, so that means my two signs are going to be positive, x and x. So let's figure out which of these two will add to be 6. It's going to be these guys. So we have 2 and 4. So now we have two binomials that are set equal to 0, and we can split it apart into two separate equations. So we have x plus 2 equals 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. So we're going to solve for x and get two answers. So on this side, x is going to be equal to negative 2 because you're going to do the opposite on each side. And then x is going to be equal to negative 4 because you're going to subtract 4 on both sides. Got it? Good. All right, I'm going to have you guys try example number 2 in a minute, but let's try example number 3. So we're going to have two binomials, factor it out. We need it to multiply to be 6, positive 6, and add to be negative 5. So our factors of 6 would be 1 and 6, 2 and 3, and that is it. But we need it to add to be a negative. So the only way to multiply to be 6 and add to be negative 5 would be to make both of those factors negative. So which one of those would add to be negative 5? It's going to be negative 2 and negative 3. So I'm going to have x minus 2 and x minus 3. So I'm going to set both of those, since this is equal to 0, I'm going to do x minus 2 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. And when you do the opposite on both sides for each equation, you're going to get x is equal to 2 and x is equal to 3 because you're doing the opposite on both sides. Lovely, no problem, because we're experts at factoring. All right, last one. It's not a trinomial. Trying to stump us, but they can't do it. So, hopefully you saw, this is a perfect square. So it's a difference of squares. You're going to take the square root of each of those terms. So I have x, and then I have perfect square, square root of 16. That would give me 4. And difference of squares, remember every time we have plus and a minus. So simple. Great. All right, so we have to split these into two equations. So x plus 4 equals 0. And x minus 4 equals 0. Do the opposite for both equations, minus 4. So x is equal to negative 4. Add 4 on both sides, so x is equal to positive 4. And you've got your two answers. Good deal. All right, I want you to try example 2. Hopefully you'll refresh your memory of factoring and then try to solve that quadratic equation. Good luck, it's your last unit. Make the most of it.